Hey there, everyone. Everybuns. It's Gul'dan, and I'm here again bringing another. I will learn how to talk, and I guess we all better hope that I do, since I'm about to read to you. This is another episode of Lore of Warcraft, the show where we experience all the content in and around the universe together, the Warcraft universe. On the last episode, we are part of our 2 of 3 days in a row where we're reading Warcraft Durotan. It is a prequel novel to the film novelization of the Warcraft novelization of the film Warcraft. All right, I'm going to get there. Gul'dan, try to talk, take 2. This is chapter 15. On the last episode, things got dark. People started dying. Resources are drying up even worse than before. And now Gul'dan is back to offer his devil's bargain once more. So stay a while and listen to chapter 15. We will be halfway done with the book after this chapter. Warcraft Durotan. The other orc made as if to bow to Durotan, but the Frostwolf chieftain had risen and gone to him, gripping his forearms tightly.
Kovagor, by the spirits, it is good to see you. And you, Durotan, chieftain now,
Kovagor said. His grin was wide and his eyes were bright. He looked older, though Durotan supposed they all did. The years since the Frostwolves and Thunderlords had joined together to hunt had not been kind to anyone, but there was the calm patience in his mien that Durotan remembered.
Although it pains me to see the hardships the Frostwolves endure. With respect, Lorekeeper,
And he turned to Gia.
I would speak of what I know of how the South fares, and how Gul'dan leads the Horde.
Gia nodded that he might proceed. As Durotan resumed his seat, Kovagor stepped forward and knelt in front of him.
I once thought as you did. I sided with my chieftain when he was skeptical of Gul'dan's magic, and when he talked of orcs forming a single mighty horde. It made no sense to us. Surely we would overhunt an area, we would have quarrels. Could never work even in times of plenty, and in a time when every scrap of food was precious, it would be disaster.
He looked over at Gul'dan.
Except it did work. Not at first, certainly. There was many a Mak'gora, but we found that we each knew different things. One clan knew how to make a call to summon boar. Another knew how to make white leather. We could teach throwing techniques, and here he smiled knowingly at Durotan, and share the knowledge that Starflower
Was good for sleep, Draka interrupted. Kovagor's head turned to her, his face surprised and delighted. Gia scowled. Draka had not been given leave to speak, but Durotan reached to cover his mate's hand with his own.
My wife Draka understands what you say better than most, he said.
Garona's eyes widened as they flickered to Draka. The slave's tiny fingers crept to her throat, touching the collar that encircled it. Then she lowered her hand. Always before, Garona had seemed aloof, as if she were trying to distance herself from her situation. Now she gazed with open curiosity at Draka. To Durotan's surprise, a slight smile curved her thin lips. What is so interesting to her about Draka? Durotan wondered briefly before turning his attention back to Kovagor.
Then Draka has likely told you of things that have been useful in this bleak time, Kovagor said. So it was with the Horde. We learned that the enemy was not another clan. The true enemy was starvation, thirst, violence directed at each other, not at solving problems. This understanding, this sense of unity is what Gul'dan has given to us.
His eyes searched Durotan's.
Do you remember when we met, when our clans hunted together? I recall that time fondly.
As do I, Durotan was forced to admit.
I had never thought to enjoy the friendship of anyone who was not of my clan, but I did. That connection, that sense of working together for a common goal. This is what drives the Horde. We are working together to prepare to enter this new land, which will have enough for all of us to prosper.
Durotan looked searchingly at the orc he had once for a brief time considered a friend. Draka had already opened his eyes to possibilities. Now Kovagor was confirming that this horde was doing the same thing she had done, except on a scale he could barely grasp. He returned his gaze to Gul'dan. Could it be that this warlock who seemed so dark, whom the spirits shunned, could it possibly be that he was putting the sense of cooperation, of unity into play, not just for a few orcs, but for them all? Was this what it meant to be part of the Horde? Gul'dan said he had returned because he had seen Durotan's interest in this precise thing, and the Frostwolf chieftain realized Gul'dan had also been right about Draenor's troubles only growing worse.
So you have come to the Frostwolves because we are the only clan that has not yet joined the Horde?
Gul'dan frowned.
No, there are others like you who refuse to join us, he confessed. Some have become Red Walkers like the ones who slew your noble father. Others simply keep to themselves, and they are dying because of it. I said before, and I will say it again. The Frostwolves are known throughout Draenor as proud, individualistic, and strong. If you joined my horde, you would show by example that there is no shame in doing so. You would be able to feed your people. Your children would eat good meat and grow strong and healthy. The Frostwolves will be given a place of honor in my horde. You will help me lead them. For where you lead, Durotan, these stragglers, these who hold out, they will follow. I am asking you to be to these other clans what Kovagor has been to you today. A voice of reason, one they will respect. And you need them. I need you to convince them to lay their pride aside, for the good not only of the Horde, but of themselves. They need us, Gul'dan insisted. They will soon find themselves facing a choice. Join my Horde, join the Red Walkers, or die. This world is dying, Durotan. You are not a fool. You must see it.
A moment before he had looked benevolent, almost avuncular, while Kovagor spoke. Now irritation slitted those strange green eyes. Durotan looked from the warlock to his slave, small and bird-boned compared to true orc females like Draka and Gia, but so very proud. No, Durotan, son of Garad, son of Durkosh, was not a fool. He had almost been one, though. He had almost been taken in by Kovagor's words about the unity of the Horde, the things they could accomplish. He had almost turned his back on traditions that were nearly as old as Great Father Mountain. He had come too close to debilitating a clan that was and had always been free, proud, and passionate. He had almost become a slave, and worse, he had almost enslaved his own people. Gul'dan's words had betrayed him. It was not the Horde, or even our Horde. It was my Horde. For all his talk of caretaking, of saving orcs from hardship and perhaps extinction, Gul'dan was no kindly uncle selflessly gathering devastated clans to his breast to nurture them. He wanted something from them. He needed something from them. And if the spirits did not wish his company, then the Frostwolves did not either. Durotan believed that the rewards of which Kovagor had spoken were true, but what had been the cost? Yes, the orcs were working together toward finding this new land, but what if this promise was a lie? Or what if the rewards were only for a select few? Even if it were true, the spirits had taken care of the Frostwolves. They had guided them to pure water, and the clan had survived the winter. Garad might have refused Gul'dan out of a desire to preserve Frostwolf tradition. Durotan would make the same decision out of a desire to preserve the Frostwolves. Gul'dan's sickly coloring and strange eyes, his lack of clan ties, his penchant for keeping slaves, none of that would nourish Frostwolves. Durotan would not gamble his people's spirits and in the end their lives on the promises of this creature. My father said to you that we do not suffer, Durotan said. The memory of the words was clear, as strong as if he had heard them but a moment past. We endure, and we will continue to do so. Garona understood him before her master did, and her delicate nostrils flared with surprise. Her eyes had been fixed on Durotan, but now they darted to Draka. Draka! Jesgada letia vaskulduru! All eyes now turned to Garona in utter shock and belief. Until now, Durotan hadn't even been certain that the slave had a tongue in her head, so silent she had been. But now she was speaking directly to his wife. Durotan turned to look at Draka. She stood, her hand clutching her necklace, the purple crystal given to her by the Draenei. Kushuri Kajar, Draka said, and then he understood. Both his wife and Gul'dan's hitherto silent slave were conversing in the Draenei tongue. Durotan regarded the slave with new respect. Gul'dan, however, was angry. His eyes narrowed. The green flame in them grew in intensity, and his lip curled as his gnarled green hands tightened on the staff.
What did you say to her?
He hissed at Garona. Your
Garona said that my mate was a fool to refuse you.
Draka's voice was calm, measured.
My apologies, husband, but those were her words.
Durotan kept his face impassive. He did not know the Draenei language, but he knew that Draka was lying.
My slave is right,
Gul'dan said, his voice soft and sinister.
You are a fool, as your father was. No doubt if you conceive children, they too will be fools. Honor and duty are noble concepts, Durotan. You would have seen them embodied in my horde had you chosen to join it. Honor cannot feed your people when there is no food to be found, when the growing things wither and the beasts drop in their tracks. Duty cannot shelter them when snowstorms freeze them where they stand or when mountains crack open and bleed fire. Only my magics can do that. Magics that will make the orcs mighty once more.
His eyes gleamed fiercely, and Durotan wanted to draw back from them. He forced himself to stay seated, unmoving. Behind them he heard Gia and Draka both take quick, swift breaths.
Do you truly not comprehend how powerful I am? Do the Frostwolves and the Red Walkers and a handful of others wish to be the only orcs left behind to die in a barren wasteland? I could have saved you, stubborn son of Garad.
And then he sighed. The flames in his eyes subsided to green embers.
And I may yet save you. I have never turned away an orc who asked to join me. And I will not make you the first, much as I wish to at this moment. When you are ready to see wisdom, head south to what was known as the Tanan jungle.
He smiled bitterly, the gesture twisting his mouth.
It is now a desert, utterly devoid of life. It is there that we prepare. It is there that you may find us. But do not tarry over long. This world is sick, and its death throes may take you with it sooner than you bargained for.
He turned to leave. Gia cried out.
The test of the blade. You cannot leave without our promise of safety.
Gul'dan turned around slowly and impaled Gia with a contemptuous look.
I need no promise of safety, he snarled. Neither your son nor your mate could have laid a finger on me and lived to boast of it.
He jerked sharply on the chain in his ire. Even though Garona was clearly expecting it, the action forced a sharp hiss of pain from her. It was so strong that she fell forward. Draka was there so swiftly Durotan marveled at it. The chieftain's mate knelt in the snow beside the slave, helping her up. Garona jerked back at first, then hesitated and allowed herself to be raised. Draka smiled at her kindly, then regarded Gul'dan with a scornful look. The warlock merely tugged on the chain a second time, and Garona followed, turning at one point to regard Durotan searchingly before falling into step behind her master. Kovagor was the last to leave. Unlike Gul'dan, he did not look offended. His eyes were sad and his brow furrowed in concern. Durotan longed to speak to him, but the time for words had passed, and they both knew it. Kovagor flipped the hood of his cloak over his head and turned away to follow his chieftain. The sun had almost set. Under other circumstances, Durotan would have invited Gul'dan and his retinue to stay, to share a meal and shelter with the Frostwolves, after he had traveled so long to reach them. But Gul'dan's scathing comments had rendered that impossible. Most of his clan glared angrily at the departing warlock. Most, but not all. Some regarded their chieftain and Draka instead, and Durotan wondered if perhaps Gul'dan had managed to plant seeds of discontent on fertile ground after all. As soon as he could, he walked with Draka away from the others and whispered,
What did Garona really say?
Draka answered equally softly. She said,
My master is dark and dangerous.
Garona was not only proud, she was smart. She had seen the crystal, realized that Draka had been in contact with the Draenei at some point and guessed she might know some of their language. She had given Durotan's clan a warning at great risk to herself.
And what did you reply? I told her, we know.
So good. I actually feel kind of good that they refused to offer again. I believe at some point, maybe I'm misremembering. I thought at some point they did join, but now I'm also kind of vaguely remembering that maybe it was Gul'dan that blew up that mountain. So he's probably behind a lot of this, you know. The demons are behind a lot of it, but also directly him, if I remember my lore correctly. And I'm taking all of that I'm not pushing those memories too hard because this is non-canon, so they could hypothetically change like whatever they want. But we're halfway through this book. It's another. I enjoyed this. This is a good one. Next couple days, we're going to do long plays. We're going to keep going through Ungoro Crater on our Alliance account for that classic walkthrough. If you like this journey with me today, hey, subscribe, join in if you haven't already done that. Leave some comments, leave some likes, and all those good things that help the algo keep making this pop up for others so that they can experience what we do here as well. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. We got another episode in the pipe. 5x5.